The second video on the endocrine system is about the regulation of hormone production and secretion. In this video, we will talk about the role of the hypothalamus in regulating production and secretion of hormones. We will look at the posterior part of the pituitary gland and its role in hormone secretion and regulation. We will look at the role of the anterior pituitary gland in this process of regulation of hormonal activity. And then lastly, we will look at the chain of command in the endocrine system from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland to the endocrine glands. Let's start by looking at the hypothalamus. Hormone production is regulated by the nervous system through the hypothalamus. If we open the brain along its mid-sagittal plane, we see that the hypothalamus is located in the diencephalon of the brain and found to be inferior to the thalamus. It consists of a small area that monitors internal body organs and regulates the activity of the endocrine system through the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland controls the activities of the endocrine system by releasing regulatory hormones. The pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus via a stalk called the infundibulum. The pituitary gland consists of two parts: the anterior pituitary gland, which produces and secretes several regulatory hormones in response to signals from the hypothalamus, and the posterior pituitary gland, which consists of neuroendocrine tissue. The posterior pituitary stores and releases hormones produced by the hypothalamus. The anterior pituitary produces and releases 6 major hormones, 4 of which are tropic hormones, meaning they control the activities of other endocrine glands. The tropic hormones produced by the anterior pituitary gland are, first, the adrenocorticotropic hormone, also known as corticotropin, or ACTH. ACTH controls and regulates the release of the hormone cortisol by the adrenal gland. Recall that cortisol is a glucocorticoid involved in mediating the body's metabolic responses to chronic stress. Follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH, which together are known as gonadotropins, as they control and regulate the activities of the gonads, both ovaries and testes. And the fourth tropic hormone is the thyroid-stimulating hormone, also known as thyrotropin, or TSH. TSH controls the release of thyroxine, the hormone produced and released by the thyroid gland. The hypothalamus produces 2 additional neurohormones known as antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, and oxytocin. The hormones are transported by axons to the posterior pituitary gland and stored in axon terminals there. They are released from posterior pituitary tissues directly into the blood circulation. The main target of ADH are the kidneys. It causes them to retain water in the body by reabsorbing water from the kidneys and back into the bloodstream. ADH is also known as vasopressin, as it acts on peripheral blood vessels and causes them to constrict, thus resulting in an elevation in blood pressure. The main function of oxytocin is contraction of the uterus during labor for the purpose of delivering the baby. It also acts after birth by acting on mammary glands to cause milk ejection for the purpose of feeding the baby. Hormone secretion by different endocrine glands is under the control of a chain of command, from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland to the endocrine glands. This chain of command is regulated by multiple negative feedback loops. Let's take the example of cortisol secretion and how it's controlled by the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland axis. Corticotropin releasing hormone, or CRH, is released by the hypothalamus in response to signals from the nervous system. CRH acts on the anterior pituitary gland to release ACTH. Upon reaching the adrenal gland, ACTH causes the release of cortisol. By the same token, excess cortisol acts on the anterior pituitary gland and hypothalamus in a negative feedback fashion, causing the inhibition in the release of ACTH by the pituitary gland and CRH by the hypothalamus. And by this, I end the second video on the endocrine system.